Hello, everyone. Just so you know, first and foremost, anything you want to say either before, during, or after the event, you have use of your chat. So as I'm covering key concepts, if you'd like to ask a question in the middle of that or talk in more detail, just let me know. So we'll give everybody one more minute before we get started. So at one point, we will also, at the end, if you want to speak, I'll unmute all of your microphones so you can chat with me live. So if you have anything to say now or anything you're thinking of, even if it's not for today, things you want to see in future classes, etc. So we're just going to give everybody a minute here and then we'll get started. And we'll take it from there. So a few people are still joining us, so just hang tight. And I'm just going to take a sip of my tea while we're waiting. Okay. Good. And excellent. So good. Perfect. Okay, good. All right, so let's get into masterclass number 2. And we're going to start off with just a little bit of a recap from masterclass 1. So the good thing is in case you miss one, you won't be completely out of the loop, though each one is an individual segment. There are going to always be key concepts that we had talked about from the class prior that will just take a minute or two as a recap, so at least you have an idea of what's happening there. And for today's class, what we're looking at here is a few things that I want to take a look at is just overall making sure in a very positive way, you know what you're trying to achieve in functional medicine. So first and foremost, as we had talked last class, functional medicine on purpose is completely different than the medical model. So therefore, your thinking, your mindset, and kind of your hope and expectations in a positive way should be different. And we all know the famous quote is the true definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And not only is that true in the medical model, but also in the nutritional model, that a lot of our patients are surprised or sometimes upset as what we're going to ask them to do or implement, because it isn't anything any other quote nutritionist or alternative medicine doctor either told them to do, and isn't anything they've ever heard on social media. So when we start telling you to not do the things that you are aware of, that is also interesting. The secret to our success is not applying the definition of insanity to doing what the medical model did already, and or even what you or a previous nutritionist or alternative medicine doctor had done. So that's exactly why you're reaching out for the most part to us, is you're hoping that we have solutions, and we do, but they're going to be different than what you're used to. Sorry. So in keeping with that, what we're looking at here is most important, and how we're going to open up. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm breathing in my saliva. I'm so excited about the class. And I'm like, oh, all right, good. So today we're going to open up it and we're going to kind of go back. One, in case you've never done this, and two, as a great reminder, is what's so important when you're embarking on any journey, but we're going to be talking about, your health journey specifically, is keeping in mind what the journey is going to look like. Be prepared for any obstacles or bumps in the road that might occur. And then underneath all of that, it's really the mindset and asking yourself, why am I doing this in the first place? So for example, a lot of people come to us, maybe you as well, is you want a symptom gone. So you have acne that you want to go away, or you have some hormonal symptom that you want us to eliminate, or some lab level that's too high or too low. And though that is great, that is not the goal. The goal is not just to have a perfect lab panel report. The goal is not just symptomatic relief or clear skin, though that is, of course, one of the things we want to work towards. But what we need to go is above and beyond that, is like, why do you want the clear skin in the first place? Why do you want the symptoms to go away immediately or over time, as far as whatever you're coming to? And what would be the benefit of having a perfect, beautiful, textbook picturesque lab panel that you could show friends and family? So my question is what benefit does that get you? And it's one of the key reasons, and it's actually, is my opinion and what I've seen, it's the only reason anyone ever fails on any journey, whether that be a weight loss journey, a health journey, whether that's a financial journey or a relationship journey, is you didn't have a clear statement or picture of why you got started in the first place. So I actually have some friends who are marriage counselors, and when they get deep down into a failed relationship or on the brink of divorce, the counselors tell me the number one thing is these two people did not have a clear picture of why they agreed to get into this relationship in the first place. And it's usually where the marriage breakdown from that point forward. So, as you know, and I've said before, my relationship with you is much like a marriage, obviously a little bit different as far as the agreements, but then also what we're hoping to achieve. So, it's a little bit more obviously a doctor patient relationship, but as you know, there's also a friendship that is created. And out of that, what is most important is why are you establishing this relationship in the first place? So, if you haven't done that ever, and or you haven't done that in quite a while, what I obviously encourage you to do is let's spend a few minutes just going into your mindset and having a clear statement of why. And one of the biggest thing is people always give me, let's say, a broad general statement. Well, I want to feel better. Okay, good. So how you know if you have found your why and what is going to keep you going on the rough days, which we'll talk about in just a second, is this is something that you should be able to print out and put and tape to your refrigerator as a daily reminder of why you're doing what you're doing. So, for example, you have a bad day at work, and then your temptation is to come home and open the refrigerator and possibly pull out the leftover cheesecake or find a bottle of fudge on the door or whatever you're going to be looking for. Because most of us are trained, or we make the mistake of going into sugar mode the second we have a bad day. And so, what would need to be on the refrigerator door that before you grab the handle and open it, that it would stop you in your tracks? And that answers the question of why you would want a perfect blood work, or why you would want your hormonal situation to go away, or why you would be looking to get clear skin, is what is going to be the long-term benefit. So let's take a look at how I can help you answer this in a little bit better and easier fashion. So let me go. I'm going to share my screen in just a second, and I'm going to show you a picture of what I'm trying to achieve here. I have 87,000 tabs open for this particular module of things I want to share with you. So hang tight. And let me go find the one that I actually want to give you, because there's a gazillion of them. So let me see if I can find it. And of course, the one I want is the one that is not popping up. So, okay, good. I found it. All right, excellent. So this is the reason. And then if you've never received this picture or chart, again, you know, these are why we're doing these master classes here, is this is what I want to cover with you. And it's this particular success chart. And the mistake everyone makes is everyone thinks any journey in their life is going to be more like the top little picture guy there, where it's going to be you start and it's a beautiful, gentle ski slope upward till you finally reach your goal. And unfortunately, success in any regard of your life, but for our purposes here is your health and wellness journey, is it really looks more like the bottom picture. And again, I'm not preparing you for disaster or telling you that, you know, this journey with me or working with an alternative medicine doctor is going to be miserable. But you have to be prepared for things to not go as well as you hoped or expected. And the only thing that's going to keep you motivated, and why we're asking so much about this mindset and goal, is you see that little flag there at the end, is that's going to be the picture on your refrigerator. So on these bad days where in the first divot there you want to quit, and then you manage to recover, and then there's yet another obstacle or barrier, and yet there's another obstacle and barrier. My question is what is going to keep you down at the bottom of this hill? What's going to keep your eye focused, an eye on the prize for the flag at the top? So you could see there's little flags along the way, by the way, that tells you you will start seeing symptomatic improvement. That's the other thing, is everyone thinks you have to wait till the end for improvement to occur. So see all these little flags along the way? These are little mini steps. This is more what your journey looks like. And then by you get to the end, there's still a flag there. But you will, with all of these flags here along the way, that's where you're going to be seeing these improvements. So one thing I want to clarify then is along the journey, these things you want, such as perfect blood scores and symptoms to go away and clear skin and a lower number on the scale, these are actually targets on your way to the goal. They're not the goal themselves. And it's another key reason why everyone has always failed, or almost ever always fail on a weight loss program, is they ask you right out of the gate, what are your weight loss goals? Right there. It's not a weight loss goal. It's a weight loss target. So they already set you up for disaster. I'm not even sure if they consciously know this or not, but this is why we're doing this masterclass, is helping you learn, know, and understand all the things that have gotten you into trouble, whether you realize it or not. So the question is what is your goal for this program, this weight program? And then what is your target weight? It's two different questions. So why do you want to lose the weight is one question, and that's the goal. And then what number on the scale, or what size clothes, or what numbers are we going to use as the targets? So the goal in a weight loss program is not losing weight. A goal in a weight loss program is whatever that allows you to be in life that you can't currently be. It's what you can now do in life that you couldn't do before. And it's also now what you have that you didn't have before. So 3 key questions you're asked yourself in order to get this picture on your refrigerator and have your mindset in the correct place and have a named out specific goal is asking yourself 3 questions: what you would be, what you would now do, and what you would now have. So it's a be, do, have. And then once you can answer those 3 questions in detail, and then you can come up with a picture that you can tape the refrigerator, now you have a solid goal that I guarantee, in working with me, a weight loss coach, a financial advisor, whoever you're setting up this journey with, you would actually make it. So that's what it is. It's a constant reminder of why you started this journey in the first place. And then what I've noticed is people are too willing to quit too easily and too quickly on most things. So one of the key things to this mindset is consistency and the persistence of that consistency. So it's consistence and persistence are the 2 key words that'll really keep you going. And it's what's going to keep you motivated on the days that you want to quit. So just for that example, I'm going to just share a personal story with you. And that is my journey to becoming a doctor and what it took to really pull that off. So many years ago, I had this success journey. And at the end, my flag at the end was basically a diploma from chiropractic college. And let me tell you, that wasn't a fun or easy journey. And it started out down at the bottom of the hill where basically I knew nothing. And then I decided to become a chiropractor. And then people are telling me, okay, Dr. Lori, you're looking at anywhere between 6 to 8 years worth of education and somewhere around $150,000 in student loans. And I'm like, yikes, I haven't even started yet. And already barrier number 1 showed itself. So I was like, okay, so I signed my life away. I got student loans. I put myself on the pre-med program in high school so that I was qualified to even start these courses that were going to cost so much and take so long. So that journey started in high school so that I could apply to undergraduate into the pre-med program and start my journey. And then the next thing that happened is I started chiropractic college. I made it. So the undergraduate and, already in debt now for those set of student loans. And then the next barrier is through this journey, I also had, a fiance, and we weren't doing very well. So we broke up. So that alone was traumatic enough that it could have been enough of an emotional problem that would have gotten me or could have created a situation where I quit chiropractic college because I was in such a state of emotional trauma and being triggered and mentally not stable. But even with all of that, what did I do? Absolutely nothing. I just, figured out my life, moved out of the apartment, got a roommate, and ended the relationship. Was that fun or easy? Were there nights that I didn't sleep? And were there days that I was doing this to keep my eyes open in class? Like, of course there was. So, we all go through that. Then if that wasn't enough, then a few months later, my grandfather passed. And then getting the call, Lori, come home this weekend. We have a funeral. Your grandfather died and all of that. So could that have been a deterrent? It could have, but I didn't allow it to be. Then this new roommate that I had, by the way, she turned out to be a little bit mentally unstable. I won't even get into the gory details, but she made it quite difficult to survive as a roommate. So, instead of studying for exams, I was dealing with this roommate who was interfering with my life. So then eventually had to move out and, no longer with that roommate. And then we're coming up to the end of chiropractic college and we're at final exams and I have maybe a semester or two left. And what happened is in one of the classes, we saw the teacher said, okay, so the materials for the final exam are going to come from chapter blank, blank, and blank, and your notes and all of that. So I'm like, okay, great. So I knew exactly what to study, spent all weekend studying. And then unfortunately, what happened over the weekend is the teacher suspected that someone stole her test, meaning someone, I don't even know how this is possible, but she was so mad and in such a state and upset. When we went in to take the test, she had completely changed the entire test. And although the questions were based on information that she didn't say was on the test. So I only studied for what she said. I didn't bother to go like footnotes and weird, additional things in the notes that she said, oh, that's just interesting for you to read if you so choose. And she was so mad with whomever did it, whether it actually happened or not. I ended up getting a score of 32 on the final exam, which if you know about courses of 32 ruined your entire grade for the entire semester. So here I am 3 to 4 months into the course, counting on my final exam to possibly pop my B to an A or whatever. And instead I ended up with a 32 and, you go home crying. So, teachers doing manipulative things, students being unethical. These could have also deterred me from, not getting my degree. But did I stop? No. So it all turned out in the end that the teacher apologized for being that. And so we got a retest and I did pass. But again, it could have been enough of a situation to really stop me. And then finally, if that's not enough, I finally graduated chiropractic college, and then I'm about to go sit for my state boards and get my actual license so I can practice. And that was when technology was just turning the corner, where cell phones were coming about. And someone in our board actually brought a phone into the exam room. And then what they did is they stopped and halted all of our licenses. So everyone who took the exam, whether you passed or not, they wouldn't issue you a license. So again, it was like, this is what it took just to finally become and say I'm a chiropractor. Was that fun or easy? No. And I have 1,000,001 more stories of the ones that I didn't share. But again, going back to is like what kept me going. As you see here, I'll put on the screen again for you, is what kept me going during this time was the flag at the end. Is like I was willing to put up with all of this in order to achieve my goal, because my goal was very clear. I wanted to be a chiropractor. I wanted to have a chiropractic practice, and I wanted to do chiropractic adjustments. So my be, my do, and my have were very, very clear, and I never lost focus. And a lot of my fellow students did. So it is, there are barriers and obstacles, but you have to overcome them. So I'm hoping you got something out of that story as what it's really going to take, not only just with me and working for a few months or doing the official program, let's say with me, is this goes beyond when, 10, 20, 30 years from now, is what's going to keep you motivated, that once I'm not watching what you're eating and if you're taking your supplements or constantly reminding you or having follow-up consultations with you. What if you're at the point where you're doing so well, I only see you once or twice a year, then what's going to keep you going in between? So it can't be like, oh, I fell off the wagon. I haven't taken your supplements. I've been eating chocolate cake, and I'm doing shots of whiskey, and then I'm just all back to my bad habits. What I know right there without knowing anymore is your goal wasn't clearly stated. So going back to that. Now, what I would like to give you is we have a free course. It's called Finding Your Why course, to make sure you have your mindset and your why clearly stated. And I'm going to put that link in the chat so you have exactly what I would recommend doing. And this will help you ask the tough questions and get this clearly stated for you. So I'm going to put that in there now. And then you can go to that link, and it's a free course, and you can sign up and do that. So if you don't have a clear idea or statement of what you're hoping to achieve, then that's really going to be a big help. All right, good. So the mindset is really what's key. And the next thing we're going to get into then is what I see the mistakes a lot of people making is what, now that you have this clear picture and you know what you're going to do, is asking the wrong questions or trying to get the incorrect information. So what I mean by that is when people are asking about a wellness journey, though you do need some details, it's like, well, what is this going to entail? What you want to focus your attention on more is what is the outcome, as opposed to the specifics or the logistics. So an example of this in your wellness journey is really having this mindset clear, and then naming it out for yourself so that I know what we're trying to achieve. And one of the examples that I talk about is using a smartphone. So pretty much everybody has a smartphone at this point. And when you went to go and maybe buy your first smartphone, or there was an ad on TV or whatever, and you wanted to upgrade the smartphone, when you went into the store, you did it online or whatever the research was, it kind of gives you a few of the details about what's the difference and what's in the newer phone, or what does a smartphone do. But it actually is, again, more in keeping with that mindset, is like, what are the benefits of having that new phone versus the one I currently have? And the mistake in nutrition everybody makes, even watching videos and social media, is they're asking the wrong questions, meaning you're going into the store and you're asking the salesperson about the new phone. And you're like, okay, so tell me the exact data chip that you're using on the inside. It's like, the guy's like, who cares about the data chip? It's like, this particular phone allows you to take better pictures and talk faster and download faster. The benefits of the phone. So what many people get caught up in is the mechanics or the logistics of the phone. And that's not what you want to focus on. And how that compares in nutrition is, asking possibly me in detail, well, tell me exactly the exact lab panel and the exact lab level that you're going to do to test to prove to me that this is the cause of my whatever. And it's like, that's the wrong question. The question to be asking, is this going to have a health benefit for me? And if it is, what health benefit is it going to have? Because knowing the particulars of long scientific medical words doesn't help you look and feel better. That doesn't help you. It's the wrong information or the incorrect questions to be asking. So that's why this mindset is so important, is making sure that you're asking the questions that need to be asked and not getting yourself so mired, so to speak, in the muck or bogged down into the mess of learning and researching and knowing everything there is to know about magnesium and migraines and hormones and biochemical processes. That's actually my job. So similar to the smartphone, that's the nerds at the company's job to know all of that information. But in order for you to purchase the phone, do you need to know what they did in order to create that little rectangular machine? No. So what you need to focus on are the things that you can be proactive over, because you can't be proactive over a long biochemical word that happens down at the cellular level. You can't control that. What you can control is your discipline, your mindset, your motivation, your picture on the refrigerator. Those are the things you can control. You can control whether you open the refrigerator door or not. You can control whether you allow the bad fight with your boss or your spouse to make you eat sugar or not. So you're trying to know and understand the incorrect information that, again, on a health journey doesn't make any difference. So that mindset is so key. So that's why we keep going back to that. And then just as a reminder, what it is you would really need to know, and we talked about this in the last module here, is what it would look like to actually go. Let me see if I can find my picture. Too many pictures open, like I said. What it would look like to really understand a body. And give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Let's go here. Where is it? So good. Okay, good. So please hold. Good, I'm getting there. Okay, good, perfect, good. So when you want to answer those questions, if you do need to quote nerd out, this is what you're going to need to know. And so this is like the inside of the phone. Like, oh my gosh, I don't need to know what's inside my phone. I just want to know is like how fast are my emails going to open? And, does it come with these cool apps? And, can I, text my friends, and can I, upload or share something in a cloud instantaneously? I don't need to know what the inside of the phone looks like or how it works. And that's true for your health. This is what the guys in the factory need to know. And I'm the equivalent of those people in the factory. This is what I need to know, not necessarily what you need to know. And then the problem is that obviously it's so complex. So again, as a reminder, this is what you look like on the inside. This is what's happening in every cell, every second of every day. This is all of your genes. These are all of your biochemical pathways. These are all of the biochemical substances and metabolic activities that are happening day to day, second to second. So just to drive home that point, I have a cute video here so you can see that. So this is what this chart looks like. It's like an interactive chart. So if you can you see, imagine all of these words and all of these gray arrows here spinning just like on the picture. So not only is this an overwhelming, complicated chart, it's also doing this, and all of these things are interacting and making other things happen before and after them. So I thought that was a really interesting visual there to really get you to understand. So going back to then the important things. And then the next thing we're going to talk about here is, what are these important things? So now that you know, you need to concentrate on the things you can be in control of. What are those things? So I want to go back to nutrition fundamentals, and you're like, oh gosh, I already know this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you do. But again, the secret to success in anything is being a master of the fundamentals. So if you take a look at any master gymnast, any professional football player, any master pianist, when you ask them what is the secret to their success, it's not cool, sexy, fun words and, nerdy charts as we just looked at. That's nice to know. But they'll all tell you it comes back to mastering the fundamentals, mastering the basics. And that's what we need to revisit here temporarily. And for us in nutrition and health, that starts with the key food or food groups. And we're not even talking about the FDA period. We're talking about the materials that you eat on a daily basis. When they are broken down into the body, what do they actually look like? And there's only 3 categories, and the 3 key nutrients that makes you, that makes your body run and turns all other materials into different materials, are first and foremost protein. So we've heard about protein. You've been told to eat protein, but the question is do you know why you should be eating protein? And I'm going to read that to you now. So just a quick definition of what protein is. Okay, good. So give me 1 second here. Sorry about that. That was my notes. Good. Okay, so proteins. So proteins are the most abundant component of our cells and tissue. The name protein comes from the Greek word proteos, meaning of first importance. So when people are like, well, what should I be eating? Well, it's already been answered by the Greeks, thousands of years ago when they invented this word to begin with, is protein. Now, does that mean I need you to go on a keto diet or a high protein diet? No, of course not. What it does mean is that you need to be taking a look at what you eat in the day, what you eat in a week, what you eat in the month, and what you've eaten for the year. And if you tallied out a year's worth of food, what should be in first place? Protein. So that's easy enough. And it doesn't have to be with a fad diet, but just so you have the concept there. What these proteins do and why they're so important is they perform an amazing array of functions throughout the body. They include enzymes. So here's the next thing, is why these things are so important and how most people are asking the incorrect questions. So someone comes to me and is like, I have digestive problems, and I think it's because I don't have enough enzymes. So what do I need to do? Because I was reading online and Dr. Joe has his super duper enzyme formula for $49.99. And if I buy a year's supply, I get the bottles for $39.99. You know what I'm talking about. And you're like, do I need enzymes? And my answer, as you know, if you're a patient of mine, is I don't know. We have to figure that out. And even if you do need enzymes, either temporarily or permanent, what do I know about you? And this is where that chart, that really nerdy chart we just looked at, comes into play. Why would someone be enzyme deficient in the first place? Because what did it just say? What I read is that protein is what helps your body make enzymes. So if you're enzyme deficient, what do I also know? You're protein deficient. So do you need to take supplemental enzymes? There's a good chance, yes. But again, in keeping with all of functional medicine and root causes, what do I need to look at? I need to look at your protein consumption. They also help you make antibodies, and antibodies are so common and popular now. People talking about autoimmune disease and Hashimoto's and the thyroid. So if you're telling me you have antibodies, what do I know? We have a dysfunction in your immune system, number one, but we also have a little bit of a glitch in your protein needs that possibly, if you did eat enough protein, your wouldn't have needed to make these antibodies. So again, antibodies are key. This is my favorite, is the third one, hormones. So all of these people, as I have a hormonal imbalance, and what should I do for my hormones, and what should I take for my hormones, and should I be on hormone replacement, and what herb can you give me for hormones? We can do all of that. We can discuss all of that. But again, keeping in root causes, what I know is if you have a hormonal imbalance, you have a protein imbalance. And usually it's in the form of a protein deficiency. So if I make hormones out of protein and I have a hormone problem, what do I know? I also have a protein problem. So these are the key questions you should be asking from a nutrition and health standpoint. There's essential amino acids, and I'm not going to name them out because they're big, long, nerdy words, but know that there's 8 of them, and they must be consumed in the diet, and they're only supplied by animal foods, and you can't get them from any one single source, nor can you get them from plant-based. So what this whole thing with this plant-based diet, and I'm plant-based and I'm against food, and I'm against this and I'm against meat and I'm against protein, is like, well, you realize is that those 8 can only come from animal sources. So just nature alone told you what to eat and how to eat. And then everybody's like, well, I'm a vegetarian, but I take the supplements of the 8 I can't get out of my diet. And that's a whole other conversation for one of our master classes, is that's a synthetic amino acid and it's not a true amino acid. And the synthetic ones in supplement form aren't metabolized the same as the one that comes from a natural animal food source. So again, I'm not here to be politically correct in my nutrition. I'm in here to tell you and educate you on the things you are missing and how what we do is different. And it better be, and then keep you in that definition of insanity of doing the same things over and over again. I'm going to ask you and tell you and teach you different things than you've ever heard before. The next category after protein is fats, and fats are also sometimes called fatty acids or lipids. So and usually they're called lipids when you're looking at cholesterol on your lab panel specifically. And they have many diverse functions in the body, but the key one is they provide energy. And everyone has the false notion that energy is primarily a carbohydrate thing, which we'll talk about in just a second. But the preferred form of energy and raw materials to make energy in your body is fat, not carbohydrates. So if you come to me and tell me you're tired, what do I know? You're not eating enough fat. If you come to me and you have a fat metabolism problem, whether that's you're gaining weight or you have a lipid profile that's imbalanced or anything that has to do with fat, I also know you're not eating enough and or the correct fat. And the biggest thing is that the cell itself prefers fat. So when you're looking at nature, and again, biochemistry is what is the energy source that the cell prefers. It's more important to acquiesce and do what it wants as opposed to you want. Well, I want to eat carbohydrates and get from my energy from that. I'm like, okay, good, but the cell prefers fat. So the more you violate the demands of your cell, and then the energy producing portion of your body is inside these cells. If you want to violate that, then great. And a great example of that is, let's talk about your car for a moment. So you have a car. And a lot of times, you ask me in nutritional and doctor terms is, what should I eat or what shouldn't I eat? And then part of it is I go with whatever type of machine you have. And with a car, for example, you have a truck that runs on diesel. You have your regular car that runs on fuel. And not only do you have fuel sources, you also have the 3 kinds. You have 87, 89, and 91. So the basic versus the premium unleaded. And then also a lot of you have an electric car. So if you were to put gasoline in an electric car, you would ruin it. So the first question I have for you is, what kind of machine are you? And that's part of what you need to figure out with me before we start answering these questions in detail. So let's say, for example, that you have an electric car and I keep telling you to, plug it in, and that's the way you should charge and give your car energy, is using the electric plug-in station. But if you're like, well, I don't want to use electric, I like the 87 unleaded gasoline better. I'm like, I know what you like, but I'm telling you the one that makes your car work and run fast, better, and efficiently is plugging it in. And or the difference between 87 and 91. And how you're doing that with your diet is you're arguing that you want to put carbohydrates in the machine as opposed to protein and fat. And the mistake here, and this goes back to your mindset, is why do you do this? Is because of bad habits that you have been taught from mom And grandma and great grandma, most likely, sometimes it's the male, but usually the one in charge of your dietary habits, your food education, and cooking in the home is the woman. And we have associated with when I'm feeling sad and want to be happy, I eat carbohydrates or sugar. That's not a nutritional thing. That's not a diet thing. That's not a doctor thing. That's not a health issue. That's a bad habit that you have adopted from other people. So if every time you felt sad as a child, grandma said, go put some premium unleaded in your gas tank. And then you got in the comment like, oh, I really like using the premium unleaded. I like to push that big fancy better color button at the gas station. I like the premium unleaded. But you come to me and you're driving around in an electric car, and I'm like, you need to stop going there. And when you go either in your home or to these, companies and stations, you need to use the electric charger. And you come to me and you're like, but I like the premium unleaded. I'm like, I know you like the premium unleaded. Well, grandma, when I was feeling lousy when I grew up, would give me premium unleaded. I'm like, I know she would, but I'm telling you that your machine will run better if you use the electric charger and not the premium unleaded. So again, going back to this mindset, a lot of what you're running into on not making it on your health journey is not even knowing and understanding the definition of protein or a fat or that big nerdy biochemical chart. Is it's habits and routines that you have adopted and taken on that when I use other examples is they sound really silly, don't they? So for example, we get into this, oh, well, I had to eat the sugar and the carbohydrates because it was my birthday or my anniversary or my best friend's birthday, and I couldn't not eat the cake. And it's like, why was the celebration wrapped around sugar to begin with? Because, silly example, but when it's your best friend's birthday, do you all go to the gas station with your cars and go randomly fill it up with either gasoline, or if you have an electric car, stick in the gasoline in the electric car? Like, no, of course you don't. So why is fun and celebrating connected to the incorrect activity? It's supposed to be about the friendship and the relationship that you're celebrating, and not about whatever the actual activity is per se. So it sounds really silly. It's like, well, Dr. Larry, I would never take my best friend to the gas station on her birthday. That sounds terrible. And I'm like, exactly. It's the same thing for the food. So why have we associated when I need a treat, when I need to give myself a prize, it comes in the form of carbohydrates? Or when I'm feeling bad, it comes in the form of carbohydrates. So there you've set yourself up for disaster. So if I'm doing awesome in life, I'm eating sugar or carbohydrates. And when I'm doing terrible, it's like it's a lose-lose no matter how you slice it. So silly example, but great example. And that example then answers the third one. So we have protein most important, fat second important, probably as equal as protein, but for different uses and needs. So your primary source of energy should be fats. And the third type of key nutrient that the body uses is carbohydrates. But the problem with carbohydrates is it's supposed to be used as a backup system. It's not supposed to be using as your main fuel source. So there is actually, interestingly enough, no biochemical process that necessarily needs sugar or carbohydrates. So this all you've been told that you have to eat carbohydrates to live or survive. I'm like, my question is who told you that? Probably not a biochemist told you that. So carbohydrates are only used there as a backup, like on a once in a while if necessary. And this, by example, is like if you were like living out on the land and you hadn't eaten in 3 to 4 days, the body will go and take protein and fat and convert it into carbohydrates. So literally you don't starve to death or die. It wasn't designed for this to be your primary fuel source. It's just your plan B for your body, so that in times of crisis, in times of famine or bad winters or failed crops or whatever the case may be, your body could go into second gear, so to speak, and help you survive and coast through this bad time. It was not designed to now use this as the primary fuel source. So I just want to read a great quote that talks about that. And it says here, there are never and there haven't ever been any essential carbohydrates. So as I talked about, there are 8 other ones in the essential amino acids, and there's a few different in the fat realm, but there's 0. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. You could not eat them ever again and you would be fine. And then the cool thing about the body, the way it's designed, it can take fat and protein and turn it into carbohydrates in case you weren't eating enough based on its demands. So that's the catch or the trick that you've been told. So these carbohydrates, whether they're simple or complex, are just that. When you eat any carbohydrate, you are essentially eating sugar, because when complex or not, any kind of carbohydrates hits the stomach acid, it converts that and breaks it down into a simple sugar. So it might have started out as some organic whole wheat, something or other that you ingested, but when it hits the hydrochloric acid and by the time it moves along in your digestive tract, it's broken down into nothing more than that sugar molecule that's in your sugar bowl. So that's an error that a lot of us make. So they're the key three things that you're looking at from a nutritional standpoint, and the questions you should be asking about proper nutrition. Now we're going to follow that up with then how and why is this so difficult? And now if you've been reading along or go into, we're going to be reading out of the Back to the Basics of Human Health. So I told you to read ahead and do a few pages in there. So we're going to be right now on page 4. So we're going to do a few pages here. So you want to know for next week's lesson what the ones we'll be doing. So the 3 key reasons why this is so difficult, because you're like, yeah, Lori, I learned that in 2nd grade. I'm like, I got it, but it's the application that's a problem. And then also the barriers that you're running into, one, between the emotional ties you put on food that we have to eliminate. And secondarily, what has actually gone wrong on the planet that has been the secondary barrier. So it isn't as simple as I'm making it. And that's why we're doing this masterclass is here's the simplicity and the fundamentals you need to know, but then also the reasons you're getting yourself into trouble. So one of the key things that we had talked about is what happened to the nutrient value, because there is less nutrition even in the good stuff. So there's not as much protein in your protein anymore, and there's not as much fat in your fat anymore, and there's not as many vitamins and minerals in your vegetables and your fruits, etc. So where did all this nutrition go? And we talked last time about what had happened in the industry. So the 3 things that happened are first and foremost something known as deforestation, and that means chopping down the trees. Now you're like, what does that have to do with me not being able to lose weight? Well, it's a very long, complex story. But what it had to do, which is the natural ecosystems that used to exist on this planet 100 to 200 to 2,000 years ago that no longer exist. The most recent example we're seeing is, whether you believe it or not or agree with it or not, is this climate change argument. So yes, the earth over its millions of existence has gotten hotter and colder throughout, and we're in a particular flux at the moment. That's a given. But what actually created the situation, and how much does the fact that we chop down all our trees have to do with the fact that there's less pure oxygen in the air and the ratio is off? That's a whole argument for a different masterclass. But the point is that, as you can see using that example, that the forests and the trees are a vital part of our natural ecosystem. And when you start breaking down the planet's natural resources, how much wind can blow over a piece of land, how those trees kept the soil in the soil and didn't have it blow away or dry out or become a desert. This is all one of the key things, is that over the entire planet, the destruction of the actual planet itself has led to these nutritional deficiencies, because once the tree isn't there, the tree can no longer hold the beautiful soil in the ground. And where all of the nutrients come from that you eat in your vegetables, etc., are in about the first 2 feet. So if that now becomes desert or sand, as you know, go to the beach or you've been on vacation, when you're walking in sand, there's no nutritional value there. And the same is true for this deforestation problem. The next situation you have, like in your book, and it talks about, it's on page 8, is incorrect farming methods. So what has happened over to this is, in order to make crops faster, easier, and cheaper, we have compromised what we used to do in traditional farming from, again, hundreds to thousands of years ago. So unfortunately, the chemical industry has now a say in our food, which I don't exactly know how that's possible. But unfortunately, this is exact words from the book, the thriving chemical industrialists were so vicious and vigorous in their attempts to discredit any research, any doctors, any farmer that went against this, that they stripped all of the traditional farming methods from the record. And as you know, with some farmers in this country, you actually would lose your farm if you didn't follow the rules. And so it's put the farmer at quite a compromise. So he has to choose between doing the chemicals and having his farm and being able to feed his family, or losing his farm and having to come up with an entire new profession. So I get the predicament with the farmers is, but it has been to a disadvantage for all of us. So this goes against traditional farming, but it has a high economic interest because it's now about money and not about health and wellness. So The problem with this is that you can't patent natural substances. So in order to sell a medication or do anything in farming, in order to make a profit, it has to be altered from nature. Because I mean, how much money would a rock cost? If you could, rocks are cheap, they're everywhere. So you can't make a profit. So they have to do something to change the methods so that they can make a profit. But unfortunately, what they've done is basically destroyed the traditional farming methods that actually grew vegetables in the proper time frame, so that all of them had the amount of nutrients that you could live and thrive on in a day. So a lot of times you're looking at this luscious plant life, it's no longer there. And what we're doing is we're plucking these vegetables, and all of our nutrition is being destroyed or not there in the first place by these improper farming methods. We talked a little bit last time about all the fungicides, pesticides, chemicals, and fertilizers they're using. And that, interestingly enough, do you know that there's actual natural pesticides that are in the earth that if you would have allowed that 2 feet of topsoil and you didn't do these farming methods, the plant in its brilliant design is able to protect itself against predators or insects, etc. So the reason they need to use pesticides is because of the incorrect farming methods, that there's actual natural ecosystems within the plant itself and in the soil that if we would have left well enough alone, you don't need pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, all of these things. So even despite all the warnings of how dangerous these things are, and if you don't know, you have to wear hazmat suits in order to spray these things. They're not even natural. If you would have just avoided all of this and then just did the traditional farming methods, you could have avoided this whole situation overall. And then unfortunately now all these pesticides are going into the ground. They're going into the wells. So when people tell me, oh, I don't drink tap water, I have well water, I'm like, well, you're probably, if not no better off, you're probably even worse off, is because of these hundreds of years now of using these chemicals and synthetic sprays, etc. This all gets seeped down into that water that exists underneath, the Earth's crust when you dig down. And so whether it's in your well or it gets back out into the ocean, now these pesticides, whether your country used them or not, are now a universal thing. And as you know, the way rain works is that it takes the water from the Earth's, the Earth's surface, goes up into the atmosphere, and now you have it raining down back on you. So whether you did it organically or not, you're being exposed to those chemicals. And then the last thing here is that, you would think that in the book, once it was understood that increasing these amounts of pesticides, etc., would not only destroy the crop, but also our health, you think that the government would have stepped in to protect us. And of course, have you seen, they haven't. And because there's such a huge disconnect now between the FDA, so to speak, and we, the consumer, this is where you now have to take health into your own hands. It can no longer be that you have to trust other sources. You have to know and learn and understand for yourself. So again, above and beyond just knowing the basic fundamentals of nutrition, what's more important is knowing not to eat as opposed to what to eat. So not eating carbohydrates, and we're going to spend a whole entire masterclass as to why that is and how it's affecting your current symptoms. And then using primarily protein and fat as your fuel sources. And then also organic and clean living, just trying to avoid these chemicals is half the battle right there. So if you were primarily eating either only protein and fat and not eating anything that had chemicals or pesticides in it, that's about 80% of your symptom improvement right there. So it explains why you've heard me, if you're a patient of mine, talking about clean living, giving you these clean living websites, telling you to change your financial budget to allow for more organic foods and not eating the carbohydrates and not eating packaged or refined foods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm hoping it's giving you a better understanding of what we're trying to do and why. So the last thing here then is, unfortunately, the advocates for this natural living is we don't have the same pocketbooks. We don't have the coffers of money that unfortunately these big companies do. So they can shout and scream louder than we can, because a lot of people come to me as a new patient and is, how come I didn't know this? Or how come I've never heard this before? Is because the ones that can afford TV commercials and infiltrating the school system and sending out and mailing out millions of, quote, free nutritional brochures and schools on the lunchroom table and sending home to the moms, in the materials that the child brings home from school, is like there's an abundance of money. So we are definitely a grassroots movement, literally on the grassroots being natural. And also the second definition of we're going to have to do it one by one, each individual, one at a time. So this is the unfortunate truth of what's getting you into trouble as far as what's going wrong in the industry. But again, going back all the way back to the beginning of this, the question becomes then, and I said, is what's going to keep you motivated to keep this all going, now knowing that this is really the problem. So I'll share this one more time. So of all the doom and gloom I just talked about and all the reasons you shouldn't eat healthy or you can't eat healthy or it's going to be a problem to eat healthy, I'm still going to come back to you and be like, what was your original goal as to why you started this journey in the first place? What is on your refrigerator? What is in that picture? Because I can give you all the reasons why it can't be done. What you need to come up with is the one reason, the one key reason why it can and should be done. So going back to all the extra work this is going to create for you and all the things you're going to have to do that you don't want to do. And then in keeping with that, also the mindset of disconnecting this incorrect relationship that you have with food that has probably been passed down from generation to generation. So whatever you put on your refrigerator is going to have to be stronger, better, more important, and have more of an impact than the fact that it's someone's birthday or that you have to spend an extra $1 to buy the organic version of a vegetable or whatever the barrier obstacle is going to be. So I hope that really helps when I'm talking about mindset here. It's not just kind of some flighty picture like, oh, one day when I grow up kind of thing. It's really, there's some depth to it and there's some specifics and details. So if you don't know how to start with that or really answer those questions for yourself, that's where we have, again, that free Find Your Why course that I gave you the link to in the chat. That'll really help you out. Okay, good. So what we're going to do now for the last little bit is we're going to open it up to questions. So if you haven't already put your questions, if there's anything we covered today you'd like a little bit more detail of and or requests for what you would also like at our next week's master class, you're welcome to chime in. So I have a question right now that I'm going to cover first and foremost. And the question is at the grocery store, I'm starting to see some products that claim to make their products using regenerative farming methods. Is this trustworthy or a marketing tool? And unfortunately, a little bit half and half. So what we're going to be talking about in one of these master classes is how to really become a very good label reader and read between the lines on when they say some of this. So my first question is it clarified on the label or anywhere on the packaging, or let's say it's fresh fruits and vegetables or whatever, what their definition of this regenerative farming, like what does it include or what does it not include? Because all of these things, if they're done in the legitimate way, they are all natural and then you can trust them and they are trustworthy and you should eat them. But for example, there are some products when you see on the label, when it says made with, let's say, flaxseed oil, as opposed to made from flaxseed oil, what they're telling you in the first example, made with, is that 99.9% of it is some garbage. And they threw in a little bit of real, natural, good quality, possibly even organic flaxseed oil. And then on the big label, it says made with flaxseed oil. But when you look at the ingredients or the labels, flaxseed oil is the last one on the ingredients. So if you don't know that, they're on the ingredient list in priority order. So the one that's first is the one that there's most of. So you have to become a really good detective, which we're going to talk about through this masterclass, is what is made with flaxseed oil versus made from flaxseed oil. So I would be going with the from food and not the with food, if that makes sense. Okay, good. The next question we have here, what are the best protein and fat foods to prioritize? And here's the beauty of that is there isn't. So that's why when people come to me and they're like, Dr. Lori, what should I eat? I want you to give me a cookie cutter food plan. I look at them and I'm like, no. This is part of your personalized journey. So some questions we're going to ask you, and I'll ask you right now to answer this question. Which ones do you like? Are you more of a poultry kind of person? Are you more of a fish kind of person? Are you more of a beef kind of person? Do you prefer ground beef over steak? Do you prefer some chopped meat of some kind or a mixture? Do you like turkey versus chicken? The great thing about all you're trying to get out of these foods is the protein molecule. So in any form and fashion, there isn't really one that's better than the other. It more comes down to the quality. So again, grass-fed beef and farm-raised chickens and things of that, these are the words you're looking at. But as far as what molecule it came from, in a very good way, that's what keeps food fun and interesting. So when we're going back, and we're going to again dedicate a whole module to emotional eating as part of this process, we'll briefly discuss it now. Is try and get joy out of food if you need to. Just it can't be from chocolate cake. It has to be out from other food sources. So, for example, I love cheeseburgers are my thing. I don't do the bun. So what I do is I make this huge cheeseburger, and then I love all the fixings. So I just put all of the different things and I pile it up, and actually I eat it in a bowl with a knife and a fork. But I love all the flavors and the textures of like a cheeseburger, and the onion versus the tomato, and that little bit of the cool lettuce, and then some kind of like seasoning or dressing, or some good quality mayonnaise. It's like all of the flavors blend off of each other, and I don't feel like I'm on a diet. I don't feel like I'm depriving myself, because I walk away from that bowl of cheeseburger and I'm stuffed. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to go rest now. So in a very positive way, kind of pick your passion there. And of course, the same is true for the fats. It's only a matter if you have a problem with dairy, that of course those fats are going to be a little tricky. So maybe you're going to have to do fats that aren't dairy, depending on your digestive capabilities at the moment. But even within the dairy realm, the trick there is the harder the dairy product, meaning like hard in texture, the more you can eat of it. So even if you have a dairy intolerance, it's usually the liquidy, more milkier substances. And the more solid and the more hard it becomes, the less detriment it usually causes. So I stick to my harder, stinkier cheeses. So I kind of draw the line. I don't really go below a really good quality aged cheddar. So cheddar, Parmesan, all those ones in that upper bracket. And that's where I primarily get most of my fat. And then obviously flaxseed oil, avocado oil, all good quality olive oil. All of these fats are in a very positive way equal. So keep it fun, keep it interesting. Still, you can have an emotional relationship with food, but it's going to need to be a different relationship than it has been in the past. So when you're having a rough day, make a bowl of cheeseburger with all the fixings, and not a piece of chocolate cake or a whole tray of brownies. So you can still do it, but it's going to have to be with different food sources. And the thing that's going to keep you motivated, is going back to that success, is why you're doing it. So it doesn't become torture or deprivation if you remind why you're doing it in the first place. So the amount of hours that I spent studying for 6 years of my life, and the amount of one-nighters I pulled in order to study and pass all those final exams that we were talking about, that wasn't fun. There was no pleasure in that. But I kept my eye on the prize. It's like, what was the goal? And I wanted that diploma to hang on my wall. And I wanted to be able to help people naturally using chiropractic and nutrition. And here I am 30 years later, and still living the dream of that particular goal. So was it a fun or easy 6 years? Not at all. But was it totally worth it? Absolutely. Because those barriers and obstacles literally are legally what allows me to do this masterclass with you with you today. So it's paying off right here in present time 30 years later. So I love all of you. So it was totally worth it for me. So find something that passionate in your life, and that's how you're going to find what's going to keep you motivated on those rough days. So that's a great question as well. All right. Thank you so much for being a part of this. If there's nothing else, I don't see any other questions. Otherwise, quick throw them in, or we're going to be wrapping it up. And please enjoy the rest of your day. Think about your true why. I would love to, please definitely either take a picture of or email to me. I want to see your actual pictures or what you came up with. So if you do that course, I would love to know what's going to keep you motivated. And if you're a patient of mine, I'm going to use it against you next time I see you. So, but it's only for the greater good of everybody involved. So otherwise, thank you so much for being with me at this next masterclass. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you again next week. So bye, everyone. Love you.